What makes a good coming-of-age story? Well, I'm no professional film critic, and the few films I've made are, well, let's just say they've been experimental. But recently, I watched a movie called The Old Fox, and it made me realize something fascinating, compelling, and thought-provoking about the genre. The Old Fox, directed by Xiao Yaquan and featuring performances of Liu Kuan-ting, Bai Runyi, Chen Muyi, is a Taiwanese film released in 2023. At the 60 Years Golden Horse Award, it received 7 nominations and won 4. Best Director, Best Original Film Score, Best Makeup and Costume Design, and Best Supporting Actor, who was Chen Muyi for his performances of The Old Fox. The story takes place in the 1987 to 1990, 2 years when Taiwan's stock market had a huge rise from 2,000 points to 12,000 points, which made a huge increase in the Taiwanese wealth gap between the rich and the poor, along with housing prices and material cost. This huge change in the Taiwanese economy affects the main character's Liao Jie's life. Even though they are fortunate enough to not invest into the stock market, the inflating market caused housing prices to skyrocket, one of the key challenges in the film. The main focus of the film is the protagonist's family's challenging endeavor of purchasing a house. In the house purchasing journey, the protagonist experiences a coming of age. Fortunately enough, he has some bondage with the old fox, leading to the opportunities to interact with people living in a completely different social class. The film offers clear distinctions between the two social classes and the two extremes of life attitudes. In the end, the movie gives the viewers a happy ending where Liao Jie learns from both the old fox and Liao Xiaolai, becoming a kind but greedy architect who now lives a happy and rich life. For me though, the movie's story, though intriguing, is less bright than its side character or antagonist, Mr. Xie. His presence in the story seems to most people as a devil speaker into the ears of a young, innocent 11-year-old about how to become a greedy capitalist. However, I cannot hate Mr. Xie, or at least, he doesn't feel like a traditional bad guy. And yet, in real life, Mr. Xie would hardly be considered likable. He is a landlord, a symbol of capitalism, and someone who seems devoid of remorse. However, his characterization does not stop there. The more we continue into the story, the more we learn about him as a more complex, paradoxical person that we can relate and reflect. Before diving into the character analysis, we have to understand what makes us so passionate with the bad guys. According to Keen and El in studies in popular culture, there is generally an agreement that bad guys break society's conventions or rules. However, the villains we root for are generally not strange to us. We know a great deal about them from narration, from flashback, or because they talk to themselves and we get to listen. We know a great deal about how the situation is influencing him and allows us to be as kind to him as we are generally to ourselves. But here's where things become interesting. Mr. Xie represents not merely as a polar opposite of Liao Xiaolai, who is kind and selfless. He represents something deeper, a reflection of Liao Jie himself. At just 11 years old, Liao Jie is insecure and helpless, often struggling with bullies in his school and the weight of his father's overly kind but impractical expectations. Mr. Xie becomes a living embodiment of what Liao Jie might face, or even become if he does not confront his own flaws. A well-written side character does more than just catalyzing the dramas in the film. They act as a mirror, reflecting the potential consequences of the protagonist's choices or values, and moreover the values of us, the viewers. Representing an alternative path or an undesirable outcome, Mr. Xie forces the protagonist and the audience to confront uncomfortable truths. This connection makes the conflict more relatable and gives the story its emotional weight. Mr. Xie isn't just a greedy guy, he is a warning, a what-if, and a tool for Liao Jie's transformation. So, how does the old fox create the old fox? As a human embodiment of contradiction, delivering us, the viewers, a profound and instructive coming-of-age story. Good storytelling, of course, is essential. However, in terms of film, presenting the image instead of simply saying could leave a more profound impression on the readers. This essay will analyze the film techniques that the director skillfully used to portray Mr. Xie's paradoxical personalities. Through these techniques, the film not only adds complexity to Mr. Xie's character, but also explores the pros and cons of pursuing life focused solely on wealth, revealing the consequences of the choices that old fox made. For character development, the introduction of a character is always the most important. Although the film is titled The Old Fox, we do not even learn what the old fox refers to until later in the story. Early on, he is only described by other characters in a weird light. We know that the old fox refers to a rich old man, but we have no idea of his personality. We are put into the perspective of the 11-year-old boy Liao Jie, who knows that he has a lot of power. When the protagonist first encounters him, it is on a rainy day in a poor neighborhood. The scene begins with the introduction of his expensive car, sharply contrasting the two social classes. He rolls down the window just enough for us to see his face and calls out to the Liao Jie. This initial interaction is strikingly unequal. We, the viewers, are like Liao Jie, unequal as we do not know who Mr. Xie is. The lack of information in this film makes the unequalness so striking. It invokes our curiosity, and since we have seen the main character's not so wealthy home, we will admire the old fox lifestyle, seeing him as the one that has power. According to Rui Yao and Jian Yang in exploring the appeal of villainous characters in film-induced tourism, perceived charismatic leadership and justice sensitivity, they suggest that specifically, perceived charismatic leadership directly influenced emotions of pleasure, arousal, and admiration. So this will not be the last time we see Mr. Fox. This expression has grounded its roots into our perception. The old fox is a mysterious and very rich and powerful man. In the next scene, when Liao Jie meets the old fox again, we are allowed to see the full body of Mr. Xie. Now the director foreshadows that from the next few interactions, we will start to learn about this character, and this is when the characterization of the fox himself becomes more and more apparent. Clothing plays a significant role in the film, offering deeper insights into the characters. The old fox, Mr. Xie, dresses like the gentry from the Japanese occupation era. In his youth, he admired the Japanese for their social status. As he grew in wealth, he adopted not only the style and behavior of the Japanese, but also their cultural practices, such as drinking ice water. His clothing choices reflected more than just fashion. They suggest he is concealing his true self behind an identity that is not entirely his own. In fact, Mr. Xie did not entirely abandon his native culture. This is evident from his home, which is filled with distinctly Chinese elements, such as incense and fine china. These details imply that while he retained a connection to his roots, he may have felt insecure about his place in society. By wearing clothing associated with what he perceived as a superior culture during the Japanese occupation, Mr. Xie sought to elevate his social status artificially. Ironically, this adaptation of a foreign identity alienated him further from the two social classes, creating a sense of distance between himself and everyone around him. This striking difference between the appearance of him and others around him shows us one of the key characteristics of him: insecurity. For the portrayal of Mr. Xie, we can see that the film is not praising the capitalist nature of the society. As many of you know about the 180-degree rule, that two or more characters in the same scene should always have the same left-right relationship with each other. This is essential, since without the 180-degree angle, the viewers will be confused about who is talking to who. However, one particular director could break the 180-degree rule. In the wholesome movie Shining, the director Kubrick does this on purpose. Jordan Aldrich from Soundstrip suggests that the director is fully aware that this sharp break, the camera jumps completely across a 180-degree line, will make audiences feel the sense of unease and confusion, as the conversation is meant to startling the main character and the audiences alike. There are two scenes in the film that have this technique utilized. When the old fox first met the young Liao Jie in his mansion, Liao Jie was shocked by his wealth. As a kid who came from a less affluent family, Liao Jie's perception of the world shattered, learning an alternative way of living. The old fox, teaching his knowledge as a successful person, in quotation marks, told Liao Jie his way of eliminating remorse and compassion. Drinking a glass of cold water and speaking to himself, "None of my business." The director breaks the 180-degree rule constantly throughout the scene by hopping around the characters. This reflects the inner struggles of Liao Jie for re-examining his own ideals and the ideals of the old fox. After several interactions between the old fox and the young boy, the film reaches its climax. Despite the boy's lack of wealth and social status compared to the old fox, the moral battle between them has, from the beginning, foreshadowed the boy's ultimate triumph. The old fox tries to assert the validity of his doctrines, attempting to influence others to adopt his beliefs. However, his efforts prove futile, as he lacks genuine faith in his own principles. Instead, his confidence is rooted in his wealth, revealing the fragility of his convictions. The moment Liao Jie refuses to emulate the old fox, despite witnessing his enormous wealth, marked the old fox's defeat. Through flashbacks in the movie, we learn that the old fox began his life in poverty. Although he is portrayed as greedy, he is ultimately a businessman rather than a truly evil character. In the car scene, the director once again breaks the 180-degree rule during the conversations between the old fox and the protagonist. This time, it is the old fox who is experiencing confusion. He begins to see himself in the young boy, recognizing their shared backstory. However, the boy's choice presents an alternative path the old fox took. Now living alone in a huge mansion, the old fox feels the weight of his loneliness. Watching a boy who came from a similar background yet chose a different path makes the old fox realize that living with dignity and earning the respect of others does not require wealth. The song that I just played is named Niu Zai. It's also a Chinese folk song from the Japanese occupation era. It is played fairly often in the film. It talks about a sadness of a bird after its nest has been destroyed. In the Japanese occupation era, this is about the despair of many people for losing their house after the war. For the old fox, it could mean a different story. Now that he has all the wealth, he has no one to share it with. All he had left was loneliness and alienation. So back to our main question, how does the director make us understand the old fox in the movie? By portraying Mr. Xie's paradoxical nature and the implications of his choices, the director invites the viewers to reflect on the intricate relationship between wealth, identity, and fulfillment. Through the mise-en-scène and camera techniques, the film demonstrates the duality of material success, highlighting both its allure and isolating consequences. Ultimately, the narrative serves as a reminder that a life driven solely by the pursuit of wealth may come at the cost of deeper, more meaningful connections. Mr. Xie's presence compels the main character to re-examine himself constantly throughout the film. Furthermore, he forces us, the viewers, to confront our own values and choices. In the introduction, when we first encounter him, we could only see his face, his luxury cars, and his personal drivers. At this stage, we might admire his riches and wonder about the paths he took to achieve such wealth. However, as the story unfolds, we are given a fuller picture of his life. When we finally see his body later in the film, the question arises, is living lavishly while constantly struggling with loneliness truly worth it? Perhaps that's what makes Mr. Xie as a character so memorable. 奈何不了宿命落